and it's time for another review. Hope you enjoyed the new intro, and it's really cool, and I'm glad I have it now, and that's awesome. But enough about that, and on to the next part of Godzilla-Thon. So before we go on to the next Godzilla movie, which is Son of Godzilla, I thought it might be a good idea to kind of review what is going on so far in the Godzilla universe. So as far as I've been able to piece together, this Godzilla that is featured in this movie and all the other ones previous to it has been the same Godzilla since Godzilla Raids Again. And basically he's become a good guy now, and he's kind of, fallen into, he's kind of fallen into favor with the regular people. And the weird thing about it is that the people of Japan, and basically the world, I guess, therefore, actually realize and recognize Godzilla as an actual entity in the world. I mean, he actually exists, and they're okay with that, apparently. And they kind of got an understanding between Godzilla and Japan and the Japanese government. As long as he doesn't screw with them, they won't screw around with his life, and they'll be happy, and the status quo is just fine. But as far as the reality of it goes, yeah, this is apparently a different universe in which a giant monster is a fact of reality, and occasionally it needs to go fight off aliens. Because apparently this is all this is Godzilla's whole continual line of continuity, which, like I said before, isn't very strong, but it does exist. And that's what I'm really here trying to show you with Godzilla-Thon as a whole. But yes, this Godzilla is the same one. Now, after the previous movie, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, he's now looking for another island to live on because the previous one exploded. So, what happens now? We'll see. So in the beginning of this movie, we start off in an island called Selgel Island, something like that, on which scientists are doing some research on weather manipulation, good stuff like that. And on the island, they also happen to run into a large creature called a Kamakiras, which is a giant praying mantis, basically. And, well, one day everything goes to heck, and the giant praying mantis grows, huge. And really, into the movie, you don't see a thing of Godzilla except for the very beginning. But after that, it's like this huge stretch of basically them just trying to fix this weather manipulator and all the character interactions that go between the people. You also get this reporter that comes in because he smelled the story and is basically there just, kibitzing with them. Also, we have a native girl, which is just randomly thrown in, I think pretty much just for eye candy, but, and probably because of the success of the previous movie's Island Girl as well, who knows. But, yes, as you can see, there is kind of a pattern forming here, and they kind of seem to be, this one and Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster are actually very similar to each other. They both take place on an island, they both have the happy, sort of, not quite, but sort of kid-oriented theme music, and it just, a lot lighter tone than definitely the previous Godzilla films, especially the first few. And basically, that's basically what the story is until we find an egg, and out of that egg hatches Son of Godzilla. Now I realize that lots of people probably do like the baby Godzilla and the whole idea of it behind him. And I gotta admit, it is kind of an interesting way of changing the Godzilla's basic storyline, but just to tell you my own personal feeling is that I do not like baby Godzilla. I don't really think that he has any need. First of all, he does not really bring anything to the storyline except to be there and to possibly potentially get killed. Never has I ever seen baby Godzilla do anything of any sort of worth except for when he died in Godzilla vs. Destroya. And basically, all he is there is just to relate to the kids, like the Gamera movies. At the same time, we're having kids, actual kids in the Gamera movie. Toho decided to take a different twist and use a kid-like monster so the kids could relate to the monsters and Godzilla and still have their own Godzilla and not have to kind of compromise using child actors and look like they're kind of, mimicking Gamera. Which, gotta admit, Gamera did have kind of the corner market on kaiju-related kids films. But this was Toho's attempt at that, and I gotta say, I mean, it is what it is, pretty much. He's a baby Godzilla for babies, basically. Now, that's just my own personal opinion. Minilla, as he is called, or Minilla, like, haha, Godzilla only is mini, haha, it's so funny. But anyway, yeah, Minilla is what his name is, and when he hatches from the egg, he starts getting, kicked around by these 3 Kamikurai, I don't know, and until Godzilla very adeptly just kind of, disposes of them, which is cool to see. I gotta admit, that was actually very satisfying. And immediately, right after he's born, you see 2 major problems with him. First off, he looks nothing like a Godzilla, like a baby Godzilla would. I mean, he doesn't have the same shape of face, he doesn't have the same color or the skin texture. Basically, all I would tell you that he is related to even remotely to Godzilla is that he has little teensy-weensy little pimples on his back, which apparently are, spines, and they'll grow into spines like Godzilla's. Somehow. But, and the other thing is that his constant noise making, it just doesn't even stop. Throughout the whole movie, he's always going, like, making these noises like a half-retarded donkey baby puppy thing. I don't know. But it's just, like, throughout the entire movie, and it gets kind of annoying to me. That's just me. I'm just saying, you can have your own opinions, but for me, Minilla just does not bring anything at all to the plot except to have a little bit of human-monster interaction. Instead of having human-Godzilla interaction, they have Minilla, which is kind of the go-between guy. And that's all he's ever been for. And in this movie, at least, he is just completely worthless. And he can't fight, he can't do anything, which I can understand if he is just a newborn baby, but he is also the son of Godzilla. You would think he could do something of worth, but he can't. He's just a weakling. He's useless, I gotta say. But in this movie, we also get to see the appearance of, like I said, 2 new monsters. First was Kamacuras, the giant praying mantis. The other one was Kumonga, which is the giant spider, which I have to kind of like him. He's just cool. He's giant, and he's a spider. What's not to like about him? And let me tell you, Kumonga is actually kind of a formidable enemy. He is bigger than I thought. I mean, he's like bigger than Godzilla, practically. That is a freaking huge spider, let me tell you. And Kamacuras, while he's actually really kind of weak up against Godzilla, he still can be kind of formidable looking. He just doesn't actually have anything to back it up with. But that is cool. But those are the only 2 new monsters, plus Minilla. And that's about it as far as monsters go. Like I said, the main point of this movie is basically the human interaction, and I'm not really sure, it doesn't really focus on Godzilla as much as, like I said, Minilla, which from the title you would expect that, but it just seems like it's a little bit human-oriented and not quite human-centric and not a whole lot monster-centric at all like you would expect a Godzilla movie to be. But nevertheless, you do have a lot of human-Minilla interactions, and that's pretty much what the whole movie's about. The people try to leave the island, but find that they can't because they're cornered in by Kumonga. So what they do is they freeze the island with their weather machine until, and meanwhile Godzilla and Kumonga kind of battle it out, which is interesting because Godzilla seems to actually have kind of a hard time. And like I said, Kumonga is a formidable foe, which is something I would not have expected had I not seen this movie before. I mean, he's a giant spider, but Godzilla's having trouble fighting him, which is kind of unusual, but he, like I said, Kumonga's got some has some punch behind his pack. He punches a good pack. I don't know what I mean. He packs a good punch, that's what I mean. Anyway. Now one more gripe I have about this movie, and I know it sounds like I am just ripping this one a new one, and I'm not trying to, because this isn't a bad movie, I gotta say. It really isn't, and it's not nearly the worst Godzilla movie there is. But this is the worst Godzilla I think there is. The suit is just retarded. There is no other word for it. It is just simply retarded. The Godzilla 67 suit is infamous for being one of the worst looking Godzilla suits ever. Ever. And it's terrible. I mean, he doesn't even look reptilian practically. He looks like a mammal almost. It's just like a really cancerous tumor monster of a mammal thing. He doesn't even look like Godzilla, practically. I mean, you could see over the movies that Godzilla's suit was very slowly declining into what would eventually become a terrible-looking suit, and that's what this is. That's also why it was never shown again, except for in stock footage in later movies, which we'll get to that as well. But this is probably the worst Godzilla suit of them all, I gotta say. That's my personal opinion. Once again, if you have a different one, that is fine. But for me, and I think the general consensus is that the Godzilla 67 suit is by far the worst, and that's the only problem. But like I said, they don't really show Godzilla a whole lot in this movie, so it doesn't get in the way too much. But it does get in the way for me who happens to need Godzilla to be a little bit more cool. So while this movie wasn't exactly worldwide or earth-shattering, it was still on the smaller scale of Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. It was directed by Jun Fukada, which was also the director for Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. And you can definitely see the similarities between them. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying that, well, it isn't exactly the best Godzilla movie I've seen, but it is definitely not the worst. So I would say give this one a look, try it out, see what you think, but it isn't exactly necessary to the overall Godzilla storyline, except for that he does now have a son. Which begs the question, how did that happen? That is a major point in this movie, which is never explained. How did Godzilla even have a kid? I mean, first of all, it's a giant egg, how did he, you know, do that? But, I mean, other than that, how did it come to be? I don't know. I mean, you could say that he's like, you know, he's transgenderal, he can change sexes and just, you know, kind of, you know, fertilize his own eggs, but that is never actually explained in this movie. It may be later, we'll see. But as for now, it is not even explained, which kind of is odd, because back then you would have just assumed that there was a female Godzilla. And that if there was, how come it wasn't shown? So the only thing we can expect is that it died. But I can theorize here. What if the first Gojira in Gojira was the female and this is the male, or vice versa? What if they were actually connected to something, and that's how Minilla came about? It's a kind of thought-provoking question. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Put it in the comments below, and let the world know about what you think, where Minilla came from. But that was it for this movie. Now the next one, the next Godzilla movie in 1968, would prove to be completely different and take Godzilla back to its original roots. And we will get there next time, but until then, I'm Creature Hunt Guy, this is Son of Godzilla, and I'll see you later.